Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fifth and final session in this series of Impact on Air. We're very excited today to feature three companies that are major innovators in health from the Impact Hub network around the world. We'll have Shift Labs from right here in Seattle, Beth and Kojo. Then we'll introduce you to Jourvie, an app for people with eating disorders based in Berlin. And then we'll go to Salt Lake City to Robert Talaya of American MedChem, which is managing research and drug development for rare and neglected diseases. We're very excited about today's session. We're also a little bit sad that the series is coming to a close, but we really couldn't ask for a better group to close us out with. We also have some of our favorite subjects from viewing parties. We'll be joined today by groups in Barcelona, Berlin, Boulder, Dubai, Rotterdam, Salt Lake City, Seattle, and Westminster. If we didn't call your name, please drop us a line through Q&A or Twitter so we can give you a shout out. We also hope that you viewers everywhere will continue to send us questions as we go through this session. That's one of the most exciting parts for us, is hearing from viewers at different impact hubs and even from home around the world. Today we also have two experts with us. You see Mark just joined us. We're very excited to see you. I'll ask Judith Mathijssen, who's joining us from Rotterdam, to just say a few words about her background. Judith?
Hi, well, nice to meet you all in this virtual environment. I'm an advisor in health systems development, mainly working in middle and low income countries. My field of expertise are mainly in improving access to quality healthcare in terms of financing, and also to push innovative products into the market in these countries. So I have a background in public health and business administration, so I hope I can give you some feedback from a business perspective and also from a public health perspective.
Great, thank you so much, Judith. And Mark, it's great to see you this morning. We're glad you could join us.
Happy to be here.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great. I've got a background primarily in the life science venture capital business. I was with a group called Arch Venture Partners for a number of years, and then helped start another group called Rivervest Venture Partners. Since I left Rivervest in 2005, I've spent about a fair amount of time being the business coach to the scientific founder, helping get a bunch of ideas from the idea stage through to being successful, well-financed companies, both in biotech and in medical devices, as well as consulting to various early-stage venture funds.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Again, we really couldn't ask for a better group to close out this series, and we're excited to hear from both of you as experts as we go through the presentations this morning. And we hope, just for anyone who's tuning in, we hope you'll stick with us. We have a few things to share with you at the end of the session as well, so please do stick with us for all the presentations. I'm excited now to turn it over to Shift Lab. Beth and Kojo are based here in Seattle, and they are going to share with us their medical device venture. Go ahead.
Thanks, Candace. So I'm Beth.
And I'm Koji.
So we're Shift, and what we do is we build low-cost medical devices and push them to market. So we emphasize really superior engineering as well as human-centered design, building products that are robust, can withstand high temperature, high humidity, intermittent power, and then also from the design side, ensuring that they're simple. They're simple and easy to use, and that people who have maybe lower levels of training can still provide excellent care. So that's our mission and our vision. And I got involved with Shift after having been a professor for 20 years and working on all kinds of great projects and watching them all die in the lab, one after the other, because it's so very difficult to find a financially sustainable way for a truly low-cost medical device to make it into the marketplace. So we built our business model around kind of a pipeline, a tiered model, where we combine in-house research and development on products with helping other people commercialize their projects as well. So whether it's working with NGOs, other innovators, faculty, graduate students, things like that. And then we apply that engineering and design expertise as well as the distribution network connections that we build out. And our first product that we have developed in-house is in response to one of the challenges that a lot of doctors and nurses shared with us about administering infusion in a way that's precise. So if you're giving fluids or drugs, here in the U.S. in our hospitals we have infusion pumps, and in most parts of the world people don't have infusion pumps. And what the pumps do is they give you a very measured, precise amount of drugs. So what happens when you don't have a pump is this. So a nurse comes up to a bag and counts the drops as they fall through this tube. I don't know if you can see that fairly well, but they count the drops as they fall, one after the other, and they estimate how many drops per minute are falling. And there are 4 sizes of this tubing made in the world. So then the nurse will have to think, well, which size do I have? And then they do the mental math. There's a different equation for each size tubing. They do the mental math to convert drops per minute into a milliliter per hour dose rate. And as you can imagine, it's a terrible process. So the research shows that 80% of the time people are 20%, at least 20% off the mark. So we wanted to try to solve that problem. And what we built in response is a flow meter. The drip assist is what we call it. So we've got one hanging here. And I'm going to let Koji tell you a little bit about the device itself.
So this little device weighs 3.5 ounces, runs on a single AA battery. It lasts up to 2 weeks, continuous use. And you can set, I'm going to just show how our screen here it works a little bit. So you can set the drip factor, basically the tubing size, and then there's a little optical sensor. So as the drips come through, it's going to actually read out what the flow rate is. And you can read it in milliliters per hour, drops per minute, or just total volume, total that was administered. And then there's an alarm. So using the standard drip set, you set the flow rate that you want, and you can actually set the alarm. If it falls outside a safe range of that rate you set, the alarm will sound. And so you know if somebody's getting too much or too little of a dose of either IV solution or medication.
So the doctors who work with us talk about the importance of this for things like Pitocin drips for women in labor, for children who have malaria. Sometimes antimalarials will give an IV. Also, the research is showing that for fluid resuscitation, more conservative dosing is needed increasingly. That's what the research shows. Heparin, we're looking into diabetic ketoacidosis, so going into non-communicative diseases as well. So all the really important times when you want to be able to have precision and alarming when you're dosing fluid. So that's why we built the Drip Assist. We're currently selling it to veterinarians worldwide while we wait on our regulatory approval. That's our immediate revenue stream. So if you don't need vets, let us know. And then our next product is something that we're commercializing for a global health NGO called PATH, and it is a pasteurizer for human breast milk. It's a way to do that in a low-cost way so that you can safely have donor milk. It's the single most important thing you can do to increase neonatal survival is give them breast milk instead of formula. So we're working on that. And I know we're just about out of time, but let me just say one of the reasons we're so excited to participate in this is our model is global, and we are looking for people around the world, whether you're doctors, nurses, no doctors and nurses who might have problems they need solving. If we can help, we'd love to do that. If you want to jump on board and help us with whether it's design or testing, connect us to distributors, there's all kinds of ways in which this community is the perfect community to help us. And together, we can help a lot of people. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. Of course, I'm partial to seeing really exciting innovations like this from Seattle, but much like the others on this call today, you guys have really come up with a great way to take some ideas and bring them into action in ways that impact global health. So I'm sure that our experts have a lot of questions for you on the kind of technical side of where you see this going and how you plan to scale. Judith, if it's all right, I'd like to start with you. Are you ready?
She's muted.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. There we go.
Okay, well, thanks so much for this interesting presentation. It did trigger quite a few questions. So the first one is actually, how did you come up with these business ideas? Were these already products that you developed a while ago and continue to redevelop, or?
No, so this product did not come out of my work at the university. The final trigger point for me when I was a professor was I worked on a low-cost ultrasound, and seeing the difficulty in commercializing that was the sense of, oh, there's probably a way to do this differently. So what happened was we tried to commercialize that ultrasound. Well, we met with a bunch of companies, large ultrasound manufacturers, let's just say that, and offered to share our results because we'd published on it as academics, and they said no, thank you, many times over. And finally, one of the vice presidents took me aside and he said, well, we could make cheaper technology, but it doesn't support the cost of our sales force. So there's no motivation to do so. And so that's when I started thinking about what alternative business models could you come up with. This product in particular, when we started the company, we sat down. So I had done a bunch of site visits in hospitals overseas as part of my academic work and other research work. And we talked to a bunch of doctors and nurses who worked overseas or were from overseas, from our target markets. And we said, tell us about your day. And so we did sort of an interview ethnography. And then we looked for commonalities across the challenges that they were having. From there, we extracted about 6 problems that were common. And then we sat down with a bunch of engineers and hackers, and we said, okay, which of these problems could you solve cheaply? And we couldn't solve all of them cheaply. But there were 3 that bubbled up where the engineers said, no, we could do this really inexpensively. This was one of them, and that's the one we chose to proceed with.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. Mark, I'd like to turn it over to you. You have any questions about the business model here? Mark, you're on mute, by the way.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So kudos for developing this. It's a, you know, I'm surprised nobody's done this before. I've years ago had somebody describe the same idea, describe the problem, and you know, very quickly it leads to a solution. You know, I've envisioned exactly this product, but never really went forward with it myself. Is there anything else like this out there, and if you know, and is there an IP position in this, or is it just sort of a first mover advantage?
So we do have a patent filed, and we're waiting to hear some of the claims were granted. Things are moving forward. There have been products similar to it on the market. I would say what distinguishes us. So, well, first of all, let me say, as we thought this was going to be an easy problem to solve, but it turns out it's not. So these drops, everyone thinks that they're falling at a constant rate, but that's not the case. It's actually quite irregular. So we had to find a way to take this sort of machine perfect information and make it human usable while retaining accuracy. So that was very challenging. That was the engineering challenge. The design challenge was also significant, and I think this is what distinguishes us from products that have previously been on the market and not really scaled. So we tested an earlier version of this. I don't have it out, but it was a clip version, and it went all the way around the tube. And when I went to a hospital, I went to a series of hospitals in India and showed it to a bunch of nurses and doctors there. Yeah, this is the earlier version. You can see how that would have worked. And they hated the fact that they couldn't see the drops at the same time that they were seeing the number. And so then we had to redesign it so that it would fit on all the different tubing sizes made in the world. So we collected tubes from different continents, and the diameter and the length and the needle that sticks out, there's a tremendous amount of variation, so it was very difficult from a design standpoint. But we really emphasized human-centered design. We wanted people to trust it. And so it wasn't just about the functionality from a technology standpoint, but we built this to meet users where they are, what their trust level is with technology, rather than where we wanted them to go. So that design perspective is one of the things that distinguishes what we've built.
Okay, and then how big do you think the various markets are for this device? You know, the veterinary market you're in now, how are the sales going there? And then, you know, the sort of developing world and first world markets.
So we have product right now being market tested in Mexico, Tanzania, and Nigeria. The demand varies from country to country. Nigeria, complicated market to work in, but a lot of demand, and we have some good connections there. Kenya is a place where we're going to start talking to some of the independent clinics. So the potential demand is quite high. I would also say, and from the business standpoint, we've had a surprising level of interest from the U.S. market as well. Probably a different SKU, so slightly higher end, maybe a different kind of alarming system. But from a business model standpoint, having that dual market where we're in a developed country as well as really working in our core emerging markets is one of the things that helps our financial sustainability.
And then also for how the veterinary market's going, we started selling 3-4 weeks ago.
I think 4.
4, so we've sold, what, 4 units?
We have 54 units.
Okay, great.
So later today I'm getting on a plane and going to a trade show, the big vet critical care conference. Our distributor has a booth. He's invited me to come. He's given me a pass, and so I'll be selling. That's our ad in our distributor's catalog. So I'll be in the booth for 3 days selling product to what is our core market, the critical care veterinarians. So I'm excited about that. And then we're in 4 countries as well, so in the vet market.
Well, let me also just share my closest experience to this. I once took a deep dive doing due diligence on a company called Fluid Sense. Are you familiar with them?
Not a fan.
Okay, they were developing a next generation infusion pump. You know, not just counting the drips, but controlling that. And they had a really strong design sensibility. The founder was a guy named Jeff Carlisle, who was out of DECA, you know, Dean Kamen's design shop. So I think you want to know Jeff and you know, to have a relationship there. I think he's somebody that has a lot of arrows in his back and a lot of wisdom around, you know, what works and what doesn't work. He went really, you're following, you know, you're doing the less developed countries version of what he was doing, but he spent a lot of time talking to nurses and going really deep in the usability stuff. Got a lot of that right. I was diligencing this at the time when they had just started to launch, you know, and we're discovering that despite all those efforts, there were still some things that were real pain points. And the ones where you would get a very visceral reaction, it was a very emotional thing because these pumps mean a lot to nurses. And when it's going well, they love it. And when it's going poorly, it drives them really batty, I think. And particularly because they wanted to love this device, they put a lot of effort into trying to help it get there. And the real big pain points that I heard about were when the batteries died. So that, you know, if you can extend that duration or think about how you want, you know, the battery life to be notified, you know, and then alarms were another sensitive topic, not being annoying around the way they alarm. A lot of, you know, usability stuff matters there.
Yeah, so right now we
want to give Judith a chance to ask another last question. Thanks, Beth. No, those are really great insights, I think, for everyone. We like to think that because something is technology, it scales quickly and easily to markets where there's a need, but you're really drawing out some of the reasons why that is more complicated than it might look. Judith, you had one more question for the team as we wrap up with Shift Labs. I'd like to turn it over to you again.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're muted.
Yeah, I'm muted now. Okay, I agree with Mark. I'm actually surprised that this product hasn't been developed before because apparently there is a demand for it in the first market and also in the developing world. What I was wondering, do you measure the impact of your product on people's health? And if you do so, how do you do it?
So we've only been on the market for a month, so we haven't done that yet. We've focused on the precision testing, bench testing essentially, for validation. So we're working with 2 doctors right now to set up trials in both Lagos and in Rwanda, Butare, their teaching hospital, to look at maternal health and diabetic ketoacidosis to be able to track an impact. And so we're looking for, so we just wrote a grant to do those trials. So we would look for some of that grant funding, working with the doctors. I've got a PhD, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try to put together a clinical trial. The doctors on our team are the ones who are leading that charge. That's our gold standard.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark and Judith, Beth, and Koji for that presentation. It's really exciting to see you moving forward. And even though it's only 4 units, I think that's 4 units more than a lot of startup social enterprises. So we're really excited for you and can't wait to see where that goes. For now, I'd love to turn it over to Ekaterina Karabasheva from Jourvie in Berlin. She's going to talk to us a little bit about her app to help people recover from eating disorders. Take it away, Ekaterina.
Thank you, Candace. Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for the chance to be here. I'm joining you from the Impact Hub in Berlin. There is a viewing party right in the room next to me. And today I'll present you Jourvie, which is a project supporting people with eating disorders. And I'll just switch to my presentation. And before starting talking about eating disorders, usually when we think about anorexia or bulimia, we think about fashion magazines or fashion shows. But the truth is that eating disorders are much more serious than that. These are mental illnesses with abnormal eating habits and disturbed body image, and they affect up to 80 million people worldwide. And unfortunately, only half of them recover completely. And 1 out of 6. In 1 out of 6 cases, the eating disorder even leads to that, which makes eating disorders the mental illness with the highest death rate worldwide. And our vision is to make the therapy of eating disorders easier and more efficient by using digital technology. And in order to explain you how we do that, I'll first like to walk you through the day of one of our users. You see pictures of the life of Paula. She's a student and she suffers from bulimia, so food plays a big role in her life, and she thinks about food and her weight and her body almost every day, almost the whole time during her day. And as part of her therapy, she has to fill out a food diary, which looks like this. As you see, it's a lot of information, where she has to write down what she ate, where she ate, and when, with whom. But most important, write down what feelings or thoughts were important for her concerning the food intake. As you can see, it's a lot of information. She can easily get lost, and it's not the most practical thing to do when she's outside with friends, for example, because it's not discreet at all. On the other hand, it's very important because together with her therapist, she can work through the diary and find out which situations were difficult for her and if there are any behavior patterns she can find. This girl was me because I was a patient myself and I experienced these challenges during my own recovery. So I decided to do something for it and support other people who are in the same position. And to solve this challenge, we created an app where Paula or every other person suffering from an eating disorder can track down all the information he or she needs in a very discreet and a very practical way, just with a couple of clicks. For example, this is how a food diary would look like, not on paper, but in your pocket, and she can, or the person can write down all the information the therapist needs for the recovery process. The second part of the food diary covers also the feelings, which, as I said at the beginning, are very important for the treatment process. And we also provide the users with coping tactics for difficult situations or when they're stressed, which are activities that are able to help them. What we hope to create with this are benefits for the therapy in terms of easier and more discreet recording for each patient, to motivate and support the patients and the users in the moment when they need it. We hope that we can achieve more direct communication with the therapists, and our long-term impact would be long-term recovery, which is our vision. We're a team of 4 people based in Berlin, and we cover areas such as software development, which is of course a very important part of the project. Also community building and events, because we also want to reach out to our users in real life events and to organize workshops for them. We work together with great partners, from experts in the health field and also experts in the world of social entrepreneurship. And our next steps would be to launch the app in German and English languages and in German and English speaking countries, as well as establishing partnership in these countries. We've been already testing the app for 6 months with users, and we've received great feedback, which gives us the hope that we're doing something meaningful and that we should keep going. And our next big step would be to find a sustainable business model, because our vision is to give the app for free to the users. And if any one of you knows any potential users or potential supporters and would like to contribute to the project, please feel free to find us on our website, jourvie.com, or shoot us an email, and we'd be very grateful for any support in our next steps. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Katarina. It's exciting to see the work that you've done already. It looks beautifully designed, like you have great UX, it's nice to see that in a social enterprise app. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about what your users have found so far. I would like to remind everyone who's watching that we'd love to take questions from you. You can submit them either through the event page or via Twitter. But for now, I'm going to ask Mark Mendel to kick us off with any questions you have for Jourvie.
Hi, Jourvie. I think you're going after a very important problem. We probably have all known somebody who's been afflicted by this, and it's, it shocked me the first time I ever learned about this, the mortality. That's very real. It can be a big problem. And it seems like something where there ought to be a lot of value in an app. So just at a gut level, this seems important and valuable. In terms of your business model, I think if you can validate that you're really providing therapeutic benefit, you're going to be able to get, at least in the US sort of payment system, you're going to be able to get the insurance companies to pay for this as a benefit to give away to their client base. I don't think that's going to be much of a challenge. But what's critical is the quality of the clinical quality of the studies you run and the rigor with which you can demonstrate that benefit. And quite frankly, you won't get it right the first time, and it'll be an iterative process of design, test, see where you're getting a signal of benefit, do more of that, and redesign and retest, and it may even require adjustments of refining your process of testing, and so I would just encourage you to make sure that on your team you have all the right people for not just sort of software people and user interface people, but also folks who sort of come from the biotech or medical device industry who have insight around clinical testing. And you should understand that the standards in the psychological realm, it's one of the areas where the metrics are the worst. When you're looking at things like Hamilton depression scales, I don't know if that's exactly right for you. It may even, you want to be well grounded in what is cutting edge, and you may also want to strive to improve upon the cutting edge. For example, I think where the cutting edge is to use well-validated metrics, but then in this age of better digital healthcare, to think about where you can still fit into the validated metric that people are familiar with, but put an objectively testable feature, into it. Like you can, if somebody's a bulimic, you could put a proximity sensor into the bathroom, and ask them, are they
Yes.
throwing up there?
Great. Yeah, Katarina, do you want to say anything to those comments?
I just want to thank Mark for the comment, because this also shows me that the direction which we're trying to work on right now is probably kind of right, because we're also collaborating with experts in the hospital who help us to find ways to validate first on a small scale, but then maybe on a bigger scale with a bigger trial to validate these assumptions. So thank you very much for your comment and for the input.
Yeah, and then just two other quick points on that sort of iterative process of design, test, redesign. Early in that, not it's, you know, start in your protected environment, talking just to your hospital collaborators. But once you think you've got something pretty good, as you get more confident, then start doing the business development of running some of those tests in conjunction with a payer. And that could either be an insurance, you know, again, in the U.S. structure, that could either be an insurance company, or you might do even better with a large company that self-insures. You know, they can be a little bit more innovative sometimes.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for those comments. I'd like to turn it over to Judith. Do you have any questions for you, Katarina?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
All right. Well, thanks so much for the presentation. I think it definitely shows that it is an app that has a lot of potential. What I was wondering, how do you intend to identify your users? Because I just heard Mark saying that the insurance companies might be a way to do it, which I think is a very interesting thought, but are you also considering other ways to do it?
To reach out to our users?
Yes.
Yes. This is exactly, right now we're using 3 different approaches. The first is through our partners. The second is through partners not in the medical area, but other organizations who work with those affected, but also with their relatives or friends. And the third way is talking directly to users in the digital space, because online forums or secret Facebook groups, for example, are a big topic in this field. So this is also a place where we reach out directly to the users and we communicate with them. And this is also the way we found most of our test users in the recent months.
Okay, and I have another question. How do you see that this app will potentially perhaps replace or complement traditional therapy being used for eating disorders right now?
I wouldn't say that it would replace therapy, because this is like a huge challenge, and I wouldn't say that digital technology can replace the role therapists plays. But I would say that there are definitely eating disorders relative modules which can be just translated from the offline world to the digital world, and in this way help. And a food diary is just the first step. There are a lot of other mood diaries, for example, and other lists or stuff like this, which is, especially now for the young target group, we work with young people at the age of 12 to 20. Nowadays it's just normal to have everything on your phone, for example.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing this. I think it has a lot of potential also for scaling up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Before we let go of you, Katarina, I have one question to submit for you. This came up a lot in our last session, but it seems to me that there's potential for to make use of some of the data that you might be able to capture using the app in a more scalable way than, say, a written food diary. And that, of course, comes with a number of different challenges and potential benefits. A benefit being that you could use that to supplement other research to understand what works in eating disorder therapy, but a challenge being the differences in privacy regulations across countries. And especially since you're based in Germany, which is probably one of the stricter countries when it comes to privacy, but with plans to expand to other countries where that's perhaps a little bit less regulated. I was curious if you could share any of your thoughts on that, or what you guys are doing to collect, analyze, and safeguard the data from your users.
Mm-hmm. We talk to our users before doing anything with data. We ask them how important this is for them, or how they would be willing to share their data either with their therapist or even with the hospital or for research. And right now we decided that the data belongs only to the patients. So even we have no data on any server on anything. And we are still thinking about different approaches, for example, to provide anonymized data for research, that this might be really also something meaningful, not about selling the data, but helping to improve therapy methods. But before that, we're going to talk to our customers, not customers, sorry, users, because we want to make sure that they want to use the app and that they're happy with what we give them.
Thank you so much. We'll have another chance to kind of recap at the end, but that was great. Really exciting to hear what you're working on and see where you're at in the process. It's time now for us to go to our third and final presenter of the day, Robert Celaya from American MedChem in Salt Lake City. Go ahead, Robert.
Can you hear me?
I can. There's a little bit of background noise, but you're otherwise great.
Okay. I think they're having a viewing party here in Salt Lake City, so thanks for this opportunity. We are American MedChem nonprofit corporation, a social enterprise to address the needs for medicines for children with rare neglected diseases. If you know, 7,000 odd rare diseases are known, but 20 million children just in the United States have various forms of rare diseases, and truly there are no medicines for these children. There's a lot of suffering and a lot of fatality. If you ask the big question, why are these children not served by the existing pharmaceutical enterprise, it is the profits, because each rare disease constitutes a very small number of children. And so how do we serve these children? And hence the non-profit mode, because the technology is there, the talent is there, and I'll show you in a little bit a process diagram where it will make it clear for you how we go about doing this. How did I come to this situation of creating American MedChem? 18 years in the pharmaceutical R&D sector, drug discovery, from bench to management, and children's needs came up. I haven't had a personal experience with a child with an illness, but I know some people, and I think each one of us knows somebody with a child who is very sick. So the question was, how do we serve this community of patients, children, voiceless children, right? So that's how I came to this, and so we founded American MedChem as a 501c3 nonprofit corporation to be funded with philanthropic money and grants to conduct the research in collaboration and carry forward drug candidates. So I'm going to share with you a slide which should help talk about. Can you see that? Is that clear to everybody? The slide? Yes?
Robert, we're still not seeing the screen share. It's the green button.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Are you seeing it now?
Still not.
Oh.
No.
Uh-oh. What did I do? So.
If you grab the green button that's second down on the sidebar, with the arrow on it.
I got it. I thought I practiced this morning. Shares.
It's working great.
Okay, I got it. All right. Technology. Got it?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So as I said, this is sort of a process diagram for drug discovery and development, right? For any medication, a small molecule drug that we create for adult therapies, for example, all go through sort of a similar process. And these steps are unique, very specific in terms of talents and skills that go into this, and they're different for each of these boxes that I have marked here. But most of the biology research, genetics, which is driving this pediatric rare disease sector, is happening in universities and institutes, right? Some of these institutes are nonprofits, and they're leading in the research in genetics for these rare diseases. Some of them as small as 16, 17 patients, children, right? So what happens to all the research, the discoveries, the targets that they identify, the genetic markers that they find out, what happens to that? There is no way for them to carry it forward to the clinic, which is called the translational research. And so there's no way, when I mean they cannot go and get venture money, angel money, and start a biotech for 300 children disease, right? So the business model doesn't work there. But we, as a nonprofit, we sit in a very pivotal place here. We'll collaborate with these biologists and they are very excited to be able to work with us to take compounds into the clinic. That is where ultimately it gets validated, right? So our plan, our research plan, is to collaborate and then carry it forward. This preclinical development, a lot of the technology exists that we can borrow through grants and collaborate also. And clinical development, which is university professors, university faculty, clinical researchers like to do, investigator initial clinical trials and get the drugs into patients. And eventually, if you talk to people like NCI, they'd be willing to launch these drugs. But we'll find a way to launch them. We also want to talk to biotech and pharma partners, hopefully downstream, where we have added value to clinical candidates. And perhaps for goodwill, for good PR, they might jump in and make use of, in the US, there's something called Creating Hope Act, a voucher system, where if they bring a medicine for a pediatric condition, they get a voucher from the FDA for fast track. So that is our research model. All the technology exists. It's a matter of doing the work, right? So I'm going to switch off from this. And am I off? Hide. There you go. Hide. Yes. So what our initial steps are, we have talked to Numerous Center for Childhood Cancer Research, and that'll be our first collaboration with them for pediatric leukemia, which is fatal for 300 children. There is no medicine. MLL is the type. So,
sorry, Robert, I don't want to interrupt you, but you've got the screen share on still. So if you can click that green button again, we'll be able to see you as you talk.
So sorry.
Sorry.
A little backward in technology, but that's okay.
No problem. Right. As long as you're forward in clinical research, we're.
Yes. So this is what we have talked to, as I said, to numerous center. Can you see the screen now?
Yes. We're on screen share again.
Oh gosh, stop sharing. There you go. There's a big button there. Sorry. Got it?
Great.
Okay, so we have talked to Numerous Center for Childhood Cancer Research. They are doing all the biology and high throughput screening work for MLL leukemia, and that'll come ready Q2 of 2015, and then we will start working with that. So the biology partners will go hand in hand with us. They'll continue the biology research and the pathways and various things like that to get the drug into the clinic, and they have all the animal models ready for the testing, right? So all the pieces are there. That's our first project. That's our next step. What we're doing now is fundraising from philanthropy. And in fact, there is a grant from a family foundation to support this project, for a research project. If there is help out there to introduce me to a philanthropist who might be interested in helping children's causes, I really appreciate your help. And I think my email address is somewhere where you can find it. Otherwise, it's robert@americanmedchem.org. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. Judith, I'd like to have you kick off the questions this time. What do you have for American MedChem? If we can see you. Okay, there we go.
Can't hear.
Sorry, Judith, do you have questions?
Mute.
Yes, well, first of all, thanks so much for this presentation. I think it's very admirable and brave to dive into this field where a lot of pharmaceutical companies don't want to dive into because of lack of profits. My first question is actually, how do you determine on which neglected diseases to focus on in children, because there are so many?
Yes, a good question. So our initial selection criteria would be, it has to be for pediatrics. And second key criteria is the biology should be solid, meaning the researcher who is doing the biology has a full understanding of the process, the pathway, perhaps has a robust assay already set up, and so that we can collaborate and push it forward. There's a lot of early stage biology which is still not ready for drug discovery. So we will be going and finding out people, researchers who have some vested interest in seeing their ideas validated in the clinic. So I think with that we can push forward the programs.
Yeah. So your starting point is the academic world, if I understand correctly.
Yes, that is where all the biology research is going on for pediatric rare diseases. Yes.
Yeah. Then I have another question. I do realize you're at the beginning stages of your business, but when it comes to marketing your products, I can imagine that some of the products might have like global potential.
Yeah. I didn't hear your question, sorry.
Sorry, Judith, you're breaking up, so you might. I'm going to mute you. Sorry, you're breaking up, but if you. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting the mute function here.
She's back.
They have their own health technology assessment.
Sorry, guys. Hold on just a second. Judith, you're really breaking up, so I put you on mute. If you don't mind, you can drop your question in the chat box, and we'll pose it for Robert later. For now, I'd like to ask Mark if you have any questions or insights for Robert on the business model here.
Sure. Robert, I think this is a really exciting nonprofit you've created. Very important. I think that there's a huge need for this, and one of the things that'll work out well, I think as you demonstrate that you can do what you set out to do, you'll have, there'll be passionate parents and families of affected children that will want to support your foundation. So I can imagine a bright future, and that as you actually, develop drugs that you can license to distribution partners, you'll probably end up being a very profitable, so to speak, a very well-funded. You'll end up transitioning from good foundation, family foundation support to commercial licensing revenues that'll fund this well. So I could see a virtuous circle in the long run. So then the only challenge is getting that good start. And what do you do first? And I'm surprised. I'm curious about the choice of pediatric leukemia. I'm not familiar with this particular leukemia, MLL, but my sort of naive gut reaction, hearing that the first thing you're doing is pediatric leukemia, is to think, well, gosh, in general, pediatric leukemia is one of the biggest success stories in treating kids. Obviously, other leukemias, I just wonder. So I would fear whatever's left is probably somewhat intractable, and that it won't, in a way, differentiate you as much at first. That you'll sort of have a perception burden there. There's a lot of startup. The biotech industry is very active in novel cancer therapies.
Thank you, Mark. Good points. Thank you for the encouraging words. A thing with leukemia is that we know 80% cure rates for children. That's the number that you're referring to is that MLL infants are non-responsive to any of the treatment that's currently used, right? So that has been a sore thumb, so to speak, a standout group, and they have found out the genetics. There is a translocation in the gene. It turns out to be something like a CML type leukemia, where you can target that pathway exactly. So actually, we'll be creating a targeted drug for MLL leukemia for 300 children in the US, and perhaps another 1,000 children worldwide. So currently, it's fatal, these 300 children with MLL, and that signature is easily diagnosed, so we actually have a great personalized medicine story that we can dive right into to diagnose a child with MLL and give an exact medicine for that. And it turns out it's an enzyme target marker. You may know that, and so we are going to go after that.
I see. So it is indeed very tractable. That's what makes it
very tractable. Yes, but only 300 children. So there's nothing out there. Nobody is clamoring down Numerous Center for Childhood Cancer Research Lab saying, "Hey, we want to work on this," but they want to work with us. And the beauty of this is Andrew Napper, who is the head of research there. He and I worked at Arcule several years ago on a kinase project, and he went his separate way, and I went my separate way, and we are now reconnecting. So there's a lot of trust in terms of collaborating on project. He's a biologist, I'm a chemist, so that'll be also a great start for us. We want to showcase this as a project. I recently talked to Children's Cincinnati. They have 7 projects for pediatrics that they want to bring to AMC. So as you said, the demand is out there. So no, I think we'll be able to pick and choose some good early projects to make a mark.
Great. Thank you so much for that response, Robert. We have just one more minute here. So Judith has a quick question. Judith, do you want to repeat your question? And if we're not, sorry, it's still blank. So I'll just mention, Judith wanted to ask Robert how you're thinking about taking these medicines to market in different countries, given the different procedures for approval.
Yes.
Assessment and approval.
So quick answer. Sorry, Candice, to cut you off. Quick answer to that is the Children's Oncology Group. Again, working in pediatric cancer, they have clinical trials already lined up in many countries all over the world, and they have several hundred sites all over. So once you hand over clinical candidates to clinical researchers, patients are now beginning to get it after the safety study is done. So that'll be the first step. But as Mark mentioned, I think Mark already answered this question. We will be tapping into biotech and pharma companies who have shown interest in pediatrics, and to say, come work with us and commercialize this so that the rest of the world will get this medicine too.
Great. Thank you so much, Judith, for that question, and Robert for that answer. I can't believe we're already done with the main part of this presentation, but as this is our last session, there are a few kind of remarks we'd like to make, and then we'll turn it over very briefly to everyone for their closing statements. But first, I'd like to ask Jack to say just a few words. Jack is here on behalf of VentureScale. For those of you who don't know, this whole series has been put on by VentureScale in partnership with Impact Hub Seattle and Google. And VentureScale, which is based here in Seattle, helps companies address exactly these kinds of questions. How to take a great innovation or an enterprise that works in one market and bring it to others. And we're really grateful to them for facilitating this series and making it possible for Impact Hub members to connect across different markets. So Jack, why don't you go ahead?
Thanks. First, I just wanted to start off with a huge thank you to all of the wonderful presenters over the course of the series, including today, as well as all of the experts that participated. It was really exciting to hear about all the various things going on throughout the Impact Hub network, and fun to see people from throughout the global community connect. Also, just wanted to extend our thanks on behalf of VentureScale to both the Impact Hub network and to Google for this pilot project. And lastly, wanted to be sure to recognize Candice and thank you, Candice, for all of your work, and you've done a fantastic thing. So it's been fun, and look forward to continuing the conversation. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to get to know all of the different enterprises on all 5 of these calls. And we certainly hope we'll be able to continue this project in some form. I want to let you know, we, at the end of this series, this is our 5th session, we have had viewers or viewing parties in more than 20 countries and at least 4 continents. We've had over 3,000 minutes of our broadcast watched after the fact when they're live on YouTube. Anyone who's interested will be able to find not just this session, but the 4 that preceded it on our channel at Impact on Air. And I wanted to invite everyone who would like to stay in touch with us to sign up for email updates at impactonair.com. We are working to figure out what the next steps might be for us. As you saw today, there's a lot of people working in really similar areas or defining social enterprise in similar ways. For example, Shift Labs and American MedChem working to facilitate bringing research to market in ways that are sustainable, even if they're not so profitable that a typical company would rise to the challenge. Or what Jourvie and other apps are doing to help people improve their own lives through kind of self-knowledge, data, and connections with others. This is all really exciting stuff, and we would like to find even better ways to keep you guys connected throughout the network and beyond. So please do sign up for emails Stay in touch with us on Twitter however you'd like. We'd love to hear feedback on this session and anything else you'd like to share. So I'm a little bit sad to be saying goodbye today, but as we mentioned, this is a really exciting group to do it with. And as we sign off, I'd love to invite each of the presenters on today's call to say a few words, your thoughts on this session, on what's big and important right now in innovations in global health, and what you'd like from us. So I'll start with you, Beth, if you don't mind. Beth and Koji.
So Candace, thank you for this opportunity, and it has been amazing to hear about these other projects too. It's inspirational in the best possible way. I think probably we want to close with an ask for people to reach out to us and help us make that bridge from idea to impact. So you can reach us at I'm Beth at shiftlabs.com.
I'm Koji, K-O-J-I, at shiftlabs.com.
Or info, contact, there's all kinds of ways to reach us. But we need the help of this community in order to scale. So thank you for the opportunity. Great to reach out and meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Wait,
all right, Katerina. Oh,
this is to support the other projects.
Yeah.
They're both amazing, so thanks.
Thank you. All right, Katerina.
Yeah, thanks Candace, thanks Jack for making it possible to be part of this. It was really exciting to meet also the other projects, and also a call from my side, if any one of the viewers likes the project and wants to support in any way, feel free to reach out. We already received a couple of comments during the session. Thank you very much to everyone who commented. This was really, really great. And I wish good luck to not only to the two other projects right now, but to all other social entrepreneurs working big on health topics or education and all of the topics which you covered in the last sessions. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. All right, Robert, we'll go to you.
Yes, thank you. This is great. This is great that you could gather social entrepreneurs to share their vision and mission. I really appreciate the opportunity. The selection criteria was great. I think I had to create a video of myself for the first time. That was kind of funny, but I was able to do it. Thank you very much for all the input. I wish the best for my colleagues who are doing social enterprise work to change the world. And you know, I like to say the kids who will receive medicines from AMC, what we produce, will be very grateful for the work that we do. So, but I'm trying to reach wealthy people. It's very hard to penetrate that. If there's help, please do help me. So, thank you.
Thanks. All right, Mark, any closing comments?
Well, it was a pleasure doing this. You know, it was exciting to see, you know, three terrific entrepreneurs with terrific companies, nonprofits. I think all three are very promising. If I can do anything to help any of you, I'd be delighted. You know, good luck, and as you move forward, as I'm sure you will, towards success.
Great. Thank you again, Mark. We really appreciate your time. And Judith, you get to do the honors here.
Well, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to participate. I've actually attended a few of the other sessions, and I think it's a great way to exchange knowledge and to get to know three very unique business models in this session, which I think all have their own level of potential. And I really like to stay connected to see how these things are being pushed forward. And I hope you can continue with all these Google on Air sessions, because I think there's a lot of potential within all the hubs in the world.
Great. Well, thank you again to all of you so much, and again to Impact Hub Seattle, to Venture Scale, to Google, and to everyone who's tuned in and viewed, to all of the Impact Hubs, again, over 20 that have tuned in for viewing parties and hosted people at their sites. It's been really great to be part of this, and we look forward to staying in touch. So thank you again for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again someday on air. Take care.
Yeah.